that. Packard reduces prices.
Imagine a Packard for only $8.88. Hey, Dad, when you trade in this crate, why don't you go down?
Packard prices flat. Look at this. $100 to $300 price cut on Packard cars. What's the idea?
Search me, but what's Packard sales now?
Did you see this? Now you can buy a Packard for $8.88. That's an awful lot of car for the money.
Yeah? But what have they done to the car?
Not a thing. It says right here, not one detail has been changed, or cheapened, or left off.
All right, then. So how do they do it? You ought to read the papers, Joe. It's all here. Packard Complete 4-Year Plan. This is the beginning of a new permanent price policy. It's the fulfillment of a plan that has been 4 years in the making. A plan to give you not just more car, but...
Thus America received the news of the 4-year Packard Plan, a program of progress which enabled Packard to cut prices and still maintain the respected Packard standard of quality. In this announcement, there was news of even greater importance than reduced prices alone. Here was a significant demonstration of the American way of industrial progress, the way ahead. In Motorwise Detroit, the news came as a startling surprise. First indication to Detroiters that a building program was underway was the erection of a bridge across East Grand Boulevard connecting junior and senior production plants. But this was merely the outward symbol of an evolution within Packard plants, which was perhaps the greatest industrial metamorphosis in the history of the automobile industry. It was not an overnight achievement, but rather the climax of 4 years of development, designed to make Packard just as outstanding in coordinating manufacturing efficiency as it already was in engineering progress and quality craftsmanship. Let's turn back the calendar, back to the introduction of the first of the junior car series, and follow this plan of progress. Back in 1935, the first Packard 120 made its bow to motordom and opened a new and broader market for Packard dealers. This car demonstrated to the motoring public and to Packard dealers that Packard's exacting standards could be maintained in volume production. From the very first, the 120 was a success. It was a Packard through and through. In fact, the same materials, the same facilities, and the same standards of craftsmanship which produced the most expensive aristocrats of all motordom also helped to build these new junior cars. But even as Packard foresaw the opportunity for a car of character in the medium price field, so Packard also recognized from the outset that this move would, of necessity, ultimately require a complete new manufacturing plan. It is simple enough from a manufacturing standpoint to build a high-priced car of limited production. And it is comparatively easy to set up a plant for large volume production of low-priced cars alone. But Packard was producing a car of medium price in a plant laid out and tooled for the manufacture of the finest and most costly of cars. And Packard fully realized that no complete rearrangement was practical at one time. The blending must be accomplished gradually over a period of years. So at first, although united in quality, the junior car division was necessarily widely separated geographically from the senior car manufacturing division, and from their combined sources of materials and parts. For example, forgings and castings for the junior cars had to be transported nearly the full length of the mile-long plant to their ultimate destination. On the other hand, fenders, hoods, and various other sheet metal stampings produced in the stamping plant had to be transported half a mile to the finishing and painting division in the senior car plant, then transported back again to be built up into 120s and 6s. And finally, the finished cars had to be driven from the end of the assembly line half a mile to the shipping department and car loading dock. On East Grand Boulevard, stoplights were installed to halt the flow of traffic and allow waddling caravans of parts to cross the street. Impatient motorists waited in rows as load upon load of forgings and castings rumbled across to the junior car division. And impatient motorists grew more impatient as strings of completed junior cars recrossed the boulevard on their way to the loading dock. The symphony of protesting automobile horns was a constant spur to Packard's factory planning board to correct the wasteful, though unavoidable, confusion of this operation. But even before the junior cars were announced, Packard had begun to develop a program of rearrangement in manufacturing plans to make possible greater production efficiency, lower costs, and greater value. Thus, when the newly born 120 was making headlines as Motordom's biggest news, Packard was planning and preparing for a brighter future. Without any fanfare or formal announcement, this plan of progress went into effect. This was an opportunity peculiar to Packard, because only Packard had the priceless background of experience in both hand craftsmanship and ultra-modern production methods. And so, through the years, progressed the gradual process of unifying Packard facilities. Nothing was done in haste. On immense planning boards, every step in this transition was carefully considered and weighed, for upon the success of this planning hinged a new era for Packard. With the completion of the 1939 production schedule, the final and most spectacular phase of the reorganization swung into action. Was a streamlined plan of production without a parallel in the industry. Assembly lines 3/4 of a mile long, straight and uninterrupted. Miles upon miles of conveyor lines, moving along in an overhead highway system of critically timed progress. Millions of dollars in new machinery, too, obsoleting and superseding manufacturing tools which had been recognized as the most modern in the industry. Finally, the men of Packard were called back to work. These are men to whom true craftsmanship is a creed. They look different, and they are different from the rank and file of production workers. Some of them have been with Packard since the very beginning. Many have spent their entire working lives in Packard plants, growing up with Packard traditions of fine car building. And all of them have the true craftsman's appreciation of finer tools as a medium for precision production. At length, after years of planning, rearranging, and patient progress, the Packard program became a reality. In Packard plants, wheels turned, power flowed into production lines, and a new era in fine car building began. It was the realization of the 4-year plan and the beginning of a new and permanent policy in value giving. A multi-million-dollar investment in equipment and expansion to reduce manufacturing costs and make Packard ownership easier to attain than ever before. It has been frequently stated that Packard wouldn't know how to build a cheap car. And this is true in the sense that Packard never learned how to compromise with quality merely to reduce prices. Instead of withdrawing from old markets, Packard was creating new markets, blending old ideals and old standards of quality with tomorrow's standard of production, excellence, and efficiency to bring Packard ownership to new thousands of motorists. No longer was there any production segregation of senior and junior cars. Now, all were Packards in the finest sense of the term. Nor was Packard deserting its proud old clientele. Through the blending of facilities, All cars shared equally in Packard's outstanding design, development, and research. And buyers of Packards in all price levels receive the benefits of this forward-looking manufacturing program. You're going to hear a lot about this 4-year plan, so let's draw a quick comparison of the old and the new. Here is the production plan of 1935, immediately following the introduction of the first of the junior cars. You don't have to be a manufacturing efficiency expert to appreciate the unavoidable confusion and waste of this procedure. Here is Packard production at the end of 4 years of rearrangement, streamlined for a new era in Packard history. Now, America's oldest fine car builder sets a new standard of modern efficiency for the industry. And here is the fruit of the plan. But let's not look at these cars merely from the standpoint of industrial achievement. Here are cars which will stir excitement and enthusiasm throughout all motordom. Let's look at these cars through the eyes of our customers in a candid camera review of the Packard line for 1940.
There, that's the way you expect a new Packard to look. Trim, swift, and eager. Dignified without being pompous. And smart without being faddish.
And that is exactly the effect which Packard designers have striven to attain. Modern, graceful styling, true harmony of lines and contours without any extreme or freakish effect. The radiator is pleasingly modified, but the unmistakable identity of Packard character has been preserved.
Study the car and you get the effect of speed lining. The long headlights fared into the catwalk, the arch of fenders, the longer bonnet and the tilt of the windshield, the sweep of the roof line and the blending of curves at the rear. They all combine to give the car an appearance of speed.
It seems like such a big car, yet it isn't at all cumbersome looking.
Sure, that's the point. It is a big car. But because it's so nicely proportioned, it has poise and grace.
That's right. The 120 is a big car. 127-inch wheelbase. Packard has the longest wheelbase in proportion to overall length of any car of comparable size. And it's big inside, too, with plenty of room to stretch out and relax.
Thank goodness this car has running boards.
Yes, and it doesn't have one of those beastly humps in the floor.
Just take it easy and pretend we're important. I'm the chauffeur in this family.
How roomy it is. Why, the doors are almost as big as those in our house.
And the back of the front seat is curved to make it easier to step in or out. Nice idea.
There you are. The very picture of comfort.
It is comfortable. And so tastefully appointed, too. Your arm falls naturally on the armrest. The footrest is just where you want it. And these assist straps are really of assistance, not just decorations.
The heavy silken robe cord draped across the back of the front seat. The rear compartment light in crystal pattern. Such little niceties of design as this distinctive door paneling. And the colorful plastics in the escutcheon plate. Notice how the recessed reveals frame the windows and accentuate the size of the window opening. From every standpoint, this new 110 has a charm that excites pride of possession.
It certainly is a lot of car for the money.
And it's a Packard.
Come on, get in. There's plenty of room. Well, I've heard about front seats big enough for 3, but this is the first I've ever seen. Plenty of footroom, too, even for the center passenger.
Sure, that's because the floor in this car is level, and the gear shifter is on the steering column. Say, this is the easiest car to shift I've ever known, and it's neat and clean looking.
I like this. The instrument panel is really good looking.
But more important, you can see all the driving instruments right through the steering wheel. And this speedometer pointer is luminous at night. Up to 30 miles an hour, it glows with a green light. From 30 to 50, it's amber, and above 50, the point glows with a red warning of caution.
Look at the glove compartment, so nice and roomy. And this lock looks as if it means business.
But notice how much more vision these new cars give you through the windshield, and also through the rear window. Well, here's something, electric windshield wipers. Constant action regardless of engine speed.
And look, these ventilating windows move out at a touch.
Yeah, they stay set, too, and provide a He-Man look. Good old econo drive. More performance, smoother speed, plus real Scotch economy.
only you didn't have that clunk when econo drive goes into effect.
Oh, that's all out now. Smooth as silk.
For 40 years, Packard has been building its own bodies. Certainly, they're stronger and quieter. Packard puts the money into its bodies instead of the pockets of outside body makers.
Of course, every year brings a whole crop of new cars, new gadgets, and new selling points. There's only one that could make me dissatisfied with our old Packard. That's the new Packard.
Packard's always been famous for performance. But this car tops them all. The Packard 160.
Man, that really is an engine. What's the horsepower?
160 horses.
160 horsepower? Wow.
Yeah, but in spite of all that power, the 160 is amazingly economical. No manufacturer in the industry can duplicate Packard's background in building engines. And while this is a brand new engine in design and performance, nevertheless, it is backed up by Packard's unequaled experience of 40 years as master motor builder.
160 horsepower. I wish I had this car on the open road right now.
Who wouldn't? Not only is this the most powerful 8-cylinder car of the day, but it has a greater power-to-weight ratio, hence more brilliant performance than any stock car. And these new Supers are just as outstanding in luxury, too. The richly upholstered seats are padded with air-foam rubber over Marshall springs. Every detail of appointment and equipment is designed to the taste of those who appreciate a true aristocrat, even to the rich lamb's wool floor carpeting and footrests. With their superlative performance, these new Supers are destined to become the new master of American highways. So let's take one out on the road and put it through its paces. Out on the Packard Proving Ground, these new Supers have already proved that they are, without a doubt, America's pacemakers for years to come. So let's give this great car a chance to tell its own exciting story. First, acceleration. No guesswork, but actual stopwatch timing. All right, get set, go. Look at that speedometer climb. And imagine how such acceleration would carry you through traffic. Watch it. There you are, from 0 to 60 miles per hour through the gears in 13 seconds. But stopwatch timing alone can't give you the whole story. Let's compare the new Super with the next best performer we know, the 1939 Super 8. Okay, boys, step on it. And right from the start, the new Super steps into the lead. Don't think that other driver isn't tramping on it, but look at that new car pull away. Follow them down into the curve. We thought last year's Super 8 was top, but look at the difference. Would you like to see how fast the new Super will run? Okay, here we go. And this is probably the fastest ride you'll ever have in an automobile. What's the speedometer read? 104 miles an hour. Gentlemen, this is traveling. Look at those guardrail posts go by. Believe it or not, they're 12 feet apart. But at this speed, they're a picket fence. How do you like that? 104 miles an hour with hands off the wheel. That's stability for you. Here's more performance than any motorist will ever need. But speed alone isn't the whole story of the new Supers. Not by any means. Roadability and ease of maneuvering are just as important. And out in the proving ground back roads, all the cars of the new series demonstrated their road-hugging balance. These roads are carefully maintained as the worst roads in America. But the cars hung on to the dizzy curves and turns as if riding on rails. As for rough roads, well, can you imagine a road rougher than this? Here's a real test of riding comfort. Look at those wheel stands, and what a beating Safety Flex must absorb. In slow motion, the traffic punishment is even more obvious. Look at the wheels rise and fall as Safety Flex eats up the pounding jolts and the body rides through on an even keel. Using a car equipped with lights mounted on the top and on the hubcaps, Packard engineers made an interesting and conclusive study of comparative ride in various cars. Here's the portrait of the Packard ride, obtained by a time exposure as the car passed over the ties. The wavy line is bouncing wheels. The level line at the top indicates the level travel of the body. This record was made by the new 110. From the proving ground comes the invitation to put these new Packards to any test you can think of. Through the heaviest traffic, over the worst roads, and then compare Packard with any cars at any price. Here are the finest Packards in all Packard history. The most modern in design and the most soundly built. And at the lowest prices for which Packard cars have ever sold. But this is not the end of Packard's new price policy. Rather, it is only the beginning. For the future, Packard promises no other car shall offer as much for the money as Packard. It is the way ahead.